Hi everyone. My name is Chinwe. I have here Sandy on the call, and we are just taking some time off today to talk about self-accountability and the book That's for Living that she has written, a framework basically for self-coach conversations and how you could speak to yourself to help you, live life intentionally. So this is a little leeway into our conversation. I would give her the floor to introduce herself, but it's a framework that not just helps like people in corporate, but also even young people, young Gen Zs, and people trying to even climb the corporate ladder or just even live life the way they want to live. Especially now when it's the new year and we are making goals, we're making vision boards, we are filling up the Notion templates. But how do we go from January to December and ensure that whatever we said we're going to do, we've done it and we've done it fantastically whilst being so happy with the results? So, without further ado, I'm going to give you the floor, Sandy, to just tell us a bit about yourself before we go into the book and the framework, because I can see it's right behind you right now.
Yeah. I was thrilled. This was one of the things. I had a big milestone birthday this year, so 70, woo! And my sister gifted me this framed picture of my book cover. And so it's just inspirational to me when I come into my room and it's like, oh yeah, tick off that box, author. Here I am. So I started writing this book more than 10 years ago by,
Yeah.
I had come from a corporate culture of 36 years in a technical background and had all kinds of advice and things as I retired that I wanted to share with other people who were younger. And as I got into my post-retirement career, I was educated as a business and executive coach. I started working with nonprofit leaders and entrepreneurs and young people. And in my coach education, I learned that all those articles and things I would send to people or I would share with them as my clients, it didn't really make sense unless it was something that they were ready to receive themselves at that point in their life. So, one of the things I thought was to turn this into a self-coach framework because when you're coaching yourself, you can know when it is that you need what you need and how to get your resources, etc. And so that's what this book is all about, how to hold yourself accountable through self-coach conversations. And the demographic is the people I'm trying to reach are the nonprofit leaders, social enterprise leaders, young people, Gen Z, and that's where you've really been helping me, Chinwe, and I'm happy that we're able to talk about it today. Lots of times people don't have access to a professional coach, and I'm hoping that this will be a framework that people can learn how to do it themselves until they can afford or have the time to get one of their own.
Yeah, so I'm very happy you mentioned people don't have access to a professional coach, especially someone who is young. And in the book, it's literally attached to the name is self-coach framework. So I just wanted to like talk about what it means to self-coach yourself and what it means to talk to yourself and be your own coach and also your coachee. It's a dual role. So how does this maybe apply to a day-to-day life? And I also bring in the new year because everyone's like setting goals and also how could we use this framework, this self-coaching framework, to make sure our goals for the new year, like we're ticking off boxes the same way you ticked off
Yeah,
box of
take
being
off
an
the box.
author, yeah.
Yeah,
So how do we basically use this framework?
right. So, this framework is grounded in a foundation of self-accountability. And self-accountability is not only holding yourself accountable to those promises that you make to yourself, but it's also in recognizing what you've learned in that situation so that you can continue to grow and be better as you go. So I'll give you some examples. There's three different types of coach conversations. They all have the same five steps and foundations to go through. But one of them is, in the moment self-coach conversations One is planned conversations, and one is your roadmap where you're setting your goals, like you said, for the new year. You want to make sure that you actually do it at the end. So examples of those are, in the moment self-coach conversations. We always, I don't know about you, but some of us have routines too in the morning where you're waking up, you've got your insights, your awareness of what you're going to do that pump you up for the day. And as the day goes on, you run into those barriers or things that really start to bring you down again. Those are in the moment self-coach conversations. One, for example, I can remember is when I would get an email and it just really tensed me up and I would just furious. And so I would just send an answer back. And then like a minute later, it's like, geez, how do I get that email back? How do I delete that I sent that, in my anger? And you do that once or twice. In the moment, you can coach yourself to say, okay, the learning is maybe I should just pause here, save that email, and wait until I've calmed down before I send it again. So that's a learning about what happens and that you can not repeat then in the future. A planned one would be something happens, you run into a barrier and you think about it for a couple days or you keep repeating it day after day. Sometimes that happens with people who uh, choose the wrong relationship, and then they have a breakup or they keep trying to, make a relationship and it doesn't work and it keeps coming back. That would be something where you actually take some time, look through what worked, what didn't work, what can I learn from this, how can I do it differently next time? And then the third kind is the self-coach conversation where you're looking at your roadmap of what you really want for your life and how do the goals that you can set up for this year or for the next 6 months really attribute toward that aspiration of what you want for your life as long as you can see. And it's coming back to continuously measure your progress on your personal growth towards those roles. So what have you learned since the last time you coached yourself? What worked, what didn't? What can you do better for the next time? And how are you going to hold yourself accountable to keep coming back and looking at that? Was that clear, or is there
Mhm.
anything I can refine on those descriptions?
I personally, in the moment, I don't know if this counts as in the moment conversations, but I do have conversations with myself throughout the day, maybe trying to, because my brain is quite rambling, just to quiet it down and really focus on one thing at a time. I do tend to have those conversations, but the planned conversations I haven't really had. It's really as the day goes or as the week goes, or it depends on the specific goal or outcome I want for that day or that week or that month, and then that determines the kind of conversation that I would have to have. And this could be anywhere, I could be out and about and be having conversations with myself. Like, it's not, there's no one specific place or time for me. It's just I'm on the go and I need to organize my thoughts, organize my feelings, organize what I have to do. So it goes from out in here to like out there, kind of. So those are the kind of conversations that um I have with myself. I don't know about else, but having conversation, I would say definitely having conversations is important. I'm a very big proponent of talk to yourself because I do that and I know how it helps me organize my thoughts, like I said. So I would encourage that to every single person. Some people find it easier to write it down,
Yes.
but before I write down, I think and then I say
Yeah.
before it's like that. So this is something everyone should basically do. I would encourage people to do it. So let's move ahead. I
Well, let
went
me
through
let
your
me just
LinkedIn and there was a post that really
yeah.
okay.
Well, I was just going to just
Yeah.
bring up on that because fabulous example. Just that about learning about how what works for you to coach yourself, whether it's writing things
Mhm.
down or whether it's, setting a date on your calendar or whatever. Just that is a learning itself. And so changing your behavior to something that works for you, is also a way of holding yourself accountable with a self-coach conversation. I just want to applaud you for that. That's really awesome.
Yeah. No problem. I was going through your LinkedIn, and this was something you said that really something that I did subconsciously and didn't really think that much towards. I felt like it kind of validated me. It's basically saying um, I've learned that goals don't usually fail because we don't care. They fail because we don't pause long enough to check in with ourselves along the way. And that was something that I would say happened to me, especially in 2025. Beginning of the year, everyone makes their resolutions, but along the way, like 3 months in, 6 months in, there's no check-in. There's no pause to say, hey, let me go back and see what has happened and where I'm at now. Because, we cannot predict the future. So every day something new comes up. Every week something new comes up. It's constantly changing. So we constantly have to evolve. But again, pausing in that moment, pausing in any moment to say, have I made progress? As far as the changes have occurred in my circumstances, personally, have I made any progress in the goals I have set? And that was something I didn't do at all last year. So that was immediately I read that it really spoke to me, you know,
Uh-huh.
and I would say that was a big deciding factor in some of the goals I couldn't accomplish last year. I didn't pause long enough. I didn't check in with myself constantly to say, hey, have we made progress? Hey, have we done what we've said we were going to do? Hey, what has changed so far? I know times are changing. Again, we evolve month by month because one circumstance or the other. But in all those, like in that noise, there should be a kind of check-in with yourself again to say, hey, are you doing okay? At least,
Yeah.
that's something I would take away from this post, this specific post that you did post.
Yeah.
So,
Really good point. And one of the things
mhm,
that I need to put in there too, it's not only like just checking in with yourself, did you or not? It's celebrating the things that you did well and the fact that you even checked in with yourself. So sometimes we're so hard on ourselves that we don't give us some grace for the things that we did really well and that we actually showed up. And then the other thing is what did you learn since the last time? And how have you grown since then? Because that's the motivation that'll keep you coming back to checking in with yourself when you celebrate what worked and then you look at what didn't to be able to change things. That's growth.
of course. Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. Um, I was trying to go through the post to see what else I could ask, but I feel that is that something else you would want to like talk about?
I think that's good. I think maybe the thing to leave it with is that we hope to do more of these where we can share different parts of the framework than with those who are listening in and hope that it helps.
Okay.
Yeah. And they can.
Um, so I'm going to do a kind of roundup,
Okay.
just talking about self accountability and how the Zets for Living framework helps them do that. Like it's for people of all ages. It's not just a corporate
Right.
work tool, but it's a personal work tool. And then they could get the book on Amazon right now for free, right?
Yep. Yep. Till Monday.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So okay. Um, mm, So I think we've basically covered most points about self-accountability, and how to speak to yourself, what kind of conversations you could have with yourself, checking in. It could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, however frequency you choose. It basically depends on you and the circumstance and situation you find yourself in. But I want you guys to know this is going to be a frequent occurrence between myself and Sandy and how we could use the Zest for Living framework, as a self-coach framework without access to a professional coach. That is something that we could do ourselves and it also help us achieve our goals, especially again, it's the new year. So January, February, March, April, May, we're still using the framework, we're still smashing goals, we're still taking off boxes, we're still checking in with ourselves and having those planned conversations in a way that helps us move forward, and live intentionally and live, the life that we want to live. So this book, it's available on Amazon right now. It's free from, I believe, today till Monday. So get that. It's not just a corporate work tool, it's a personal tool that you need in your everyday life. Okay, you want to live intentionally, you want to live authentically, you want to live without, you know, feeling like beating yourself down every single day, then this framework is for you. I do highly recommend. It's not age restrictive. Anyone really, it's written for anyone, I believe. Yeah. So that's for living. I do recommend, highly do recommend. Again, we'll see you next week with more conversations on how to self-coach yourself to live in your best life and to live in intentionally. But for now, I want you guys to take away one single thing. I personally would give a takeaway, and then Sandy, I'll hand it over to you to give your own takeaway. So my takeaway would be to constantly check in with yourself. Again, that's something I have learned, seeing how 2025 went, and in 2026 I'm going to constantly check in with myself. The frequency I sent was monthly, so I want you guys to see how your 2025 went and what you learned, what you didn't learn, or what you learned further from what didn't work and what worked. And then decide to come into 2026 with a new mindset, a fresh mindset, one where you can speak to yourself with no judgment whatsoever. So that is my takeaway. Look at the past and see any patterns that you recognize, and then use that knowledge, use that insight to make very informed decisions going forward. That is my personal takeaway. Okay, and talk to yourself. Really, it's so helpful. Talk to yourself. So Sandy, any takeaway you have?
Yeah, one thing I can just say, if you're afraid of, people thinking you're crazy, like if you talk out loud to yourself or something, all you need to do is just put your phone up to your face, or put it in your ear, and then nobody knows or cares who you're talking to. I'm talking to my sister. No, you're talking to yourself, So yeah, just do it and just celebrate and pat yourself on the back for showing up for yourself, that you love yourself enough to check in.
Okay, that's it. That's it. That's all we have for you this week. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye, everyone.
Ciao.
I think that was good.
How do I stop that? Stop recording. There we go. Okay.